Well, first of all, let me thank Nacho and the rest of the team for being here. I mean, this is a great opportunity to meet you all and to share ideas and to talk about the future. So, thanks. I think I'm going to also not stand on the stage. I'm a quite tall guy, so you will see me probably anyway. So, first of all, that's me. And here we see what I'm going to talk about in short. I'll try to stay short and stuff and to let you guys eventually give the most answers and stuff like that, because this is not something that one person knows all about, one person can decide. It's actually, in my view, it's not even just the community, just the free users and enthusiasts and hardware geeks and stuff like that who decides, but we really need to think about it for a few minutes, maybe a little longer perhaps, and then talk to our partners, talk to our clients, and we'll just see what happens next. So first I'm going to tell you a few little lines about myself. Well, I live in the Netherlands and I started out really young, like when I was somewhat near 12 years old, starting with a Windows-based, IRC-based computer helping solution, like helping all these anonymous internet users fixing their problems. So even way before I knew what the Ubuntu way was, I think that I was already quite helping a lot of people to help themselves and find solutions. And well, the rest is not really interesting. I've discovered Zentyal when I was looking for a home server based on a free operating system. I wanted to see what it was. Obviously I wanted to not have to pay for it, and I really hated pirating, so anything that was free and that you could eventually give back to when you were ready for it, I wanted to see and try and test and play. And so when I came back to Zentyal 2.0, a lot had changed for the better. A lot of modules were added, a lot of community interest was beginning to emerge, and I think that for a beginning user with Ubuntu or with any Linux, you really must have a strong community. So, well, and for the rest, I've been doing a lot of projects, small projects, a few internships, a few projects with some companies with Microsoft-based solutions. So I do know a little about the SMB market, not that much, but it's enough. So, what was I going to talk about anyway? Oh, yeah. Zentyal is a steadily growing, steadily improving thing that finally we're at the point where we are a plausible solution, and that not only just is an alternative to Windows, but it's actually getting to be, by its own standard, a professional deal, and I'm really happy with that. And well, since the investment by OpenOceans, we finally came to a point where they moved from 9 coders to 20 something. Yeah, but 20 active people that do all the things that they do and really improving the level of service and stuff like that. So I thought, well, maybe if we are growing like double, then maybe it's time for some new ideas and interesting ideas to talk about. So, what am I going to talk about exactly? We have a Debian model, that is really slow and really progressing slowly but steadily, and then we have the Ubuntu way of creating some branches, and they support them for a year or two, and then once every 2 years we get a major version with lots of support and long-term support. So what Zentyal does is that we somehow try to, well, obviously I made a joke here, but we try to follow the Ubuntu LTS release, but then we do a really strange thing, because we don't follow the LTS release. Because the LTS release is one release per 2 years. So that's a lot of development, a real lot of development, and then a real lot of support for a really long time. And then what we do is we break that beautiful concept and we break it in two and give the user twice as many upgrade problems, twice as many support issues, twice as many support calls, and probably thrice, so triple the amount of headache. So it's a sufficient way, it's a good way, because that way we have, at least for 2 years, we still have a steady base. We still have the same release version from Ubuntu. So at least we don't have to upgrade that each year. But still, if you plan 2 feature versions, so Zentyal versions, not taking into account the thing, then we see something like this, that we have a 12-month release cycle. So first 2 months, if you see that I only count somewhat like 9 months. So the first about 2 months we spend fixing and addressing user problems that came to arise when they installed and implemented and deployed and tried really nice tricks that didn't work. So you can't count those 2 months because they will not change. But then we have this, oh, let me go here, right. So then we have the first public release notes that, okay, we're going to do somewhat like this. So we're going to work with Samba 4. We have absolutely no idea where it takes us, but we're going to do it, and we're going to be proud of it, and we're going to make it work. But in the next couple of months, we get the first alpha version, and maybe from my standpoint, a few community users try it, and we may or may not even get some quality feedback. But then we get into beta. So here there is this really big question mark, because the last time we did this with the Zentyal 3, before we had the beta, I, from a community standpoint, did not know the roadmap yet. That was a really strange issue. I knew that we were in a beta phase. I knew that we were going to test these ideas, that the code would be fixed and the things would be tried, but I didn't know where is it going. What exact lists of features am I going to expect? What exact things will I need to be testing? Because if you don't know the concept of what it's going to be, you don't know what to look for and what to try out and what to leave behind, because it's not going to support it anyway. So then we have the feature freeze. That is, well, we take about 6 months or so, or 7 months maybe. And then we have a really quick We have a year worth of development, and we have 1 month from the feature freeze to the release. That's quick. That's really quick. If you can do that every time, then my point, what I'm going to make here, is absolutely not a problem. Because if you only spend 1 month per year fixing the final issues and doing this, then you will never get into trouble. And well, you could easily even follow the Ubuntu principle, because they release twice a year in 6 months, and you would have still 4 months of development and 1 month of finalizing and 1 month of bug fixing. Because if you implement only half the features, you only also have half the time to fix these errors. So what am I going to propose here? I'm going to propose that 1 version per 2 years, following the Ubuntu LTS scheme, that could be an option. But that would have people wait very patiently, very long, and well, that's not a real idea that I think that is feasible. But this would result in much more freedom for the developer, because they have a lot of time to develop and a lot of time to perfect it. But flexibility in the back-end design is a bit off, because, well, if you don't change so often, then you can only do so much. So, fewer time spent debugging and testing a new ground, more gradual approach, less restrictive on adding minor improvements, more time for debugging and field testing before you do a dist upgrade. That's nice. But as you can also see, there is an equally long list of downsides to it, because planning such a long strip in time, it's a really daunting task, because you never know what's going to happen next. You don't know what your opponents are planning, what they're doing. So it's an easy way to get a really huge headache. And less flexible, of course. Stability, that's nice, but if you don't improve, if you don't innovate, then you will be boring really quickly. That's also what the guys at, for example, Zaragoza told me just today, that hey, if we lose the coolness, if we lose the innovation, then people will just ask us for a quick concept of our price and our selling, and then they go to the opponent and go to Microsoft and, well, hey, they're offering us this and that, so I want a 20% discount, and that's not what we want. And of course, it's the media attention, and if you release very slowly, then people will hardly ever hear from you, so they won't know you, they won't see you, they won't acknowledge you. They may even think that you are small or not very interesting, or that you are just, well, hobbyist. So, add more minor versions. Instead of creating less versions, you can also create more. Taking a middle ground between, example, 2-year release cycle that we don't do now, but that I talked about earlier. Zentyal is running a 1-year cycle, and we have seen this with, for example, the Samba 4, that a lot of people are complaining that, hey, the Zentyal as a slave to the Windows, it's not implemented yet. It's not entirely Zentyal's fault, because Also, the Samba project itself isn't ready for it, almost, I think. But what would happen? What would have happened if we could have waited a few months? What could have happened if we had an opportunity to say, hey, this we have. This is where we're going. We're going to release this part now, and very quickly after, so a lot sooner than just another year, 12 months, an age in IT concepts. So, but this could happen if we do 3 releases in 2 years. That means you have 24 months, you have 8 months per release. That means you can have, and if you plan ahead for the full 2-year cycle, then you can do little neat tricks. And I can show you. Hope. Hey, it's not showing very clearly. Can we improve this? But what I'm trying to say is, what you can do is a little neat trick if you plan ahead for the full 2 years. And of course, with every release, you still are flexible because you have the coders, you have the time, you have the development efforts. So you're still flexible in some ways. But what if you decide that you spend a lot of time doing a distribution upgrade from the Ubuntu 10 to the Ubuntu 12 to the Ubuntu 14? And so you need a lot of people fixing these improved changes, these design changes that Canonical takes. And you need a lot of manpower to get a new Zentyal approach, fixing the stuff that Ubuntu had changed. So you need a lot of people. But then, after that, you're free. You're free to do whatever you want for 2 years, because Ubuntu will not change anymore. It will fix the bugs for you, and it will keep a stable platform, and your users will get 5 years support. So you're absolutely free to do whatever you want. So what could we do if we change to 8-month release cycle? Well, in first you could say less. That's true. You can do less for the first period, but you can do more for the second, because you have 4 months extra. As I showed you in the release before, I think it's also here. Oh, no, it's not. Well, it is, but it's a few steps. But what you can do is you split a bit of your development efforts, and you put a small team in doing all the things that from your last version you did when you upgraded and you added a steady base with lots of new steady features that mostly were implemented by Canonical, hopefully. And you fix these small issues that a lot of users are asking about for many years, and you never have time to fix. And you don't spend a lot of resources on it, because all the really neat stuff you can spend 4 months extra. Like I showed before, we had a 6 or 7 month release. If we deduct the bug fixing afterwards, and if we deduct the beta testing and the RC versions, so then we would have left like 5 months. And we now can add, apart from 12, we go to 16, we can add 4 more months, effectively doubling the amount of development time, with only a few developers less than we had before. And especially those guys that work on the framework, those guys that do really hard and complex tricks, they are still around for immediate improvements, things that weren't so good or maybe could have been better. But their main focus could still be in the background of designing, testing, prototyping, and building these neat big features. Features like IP version 6. Features like provisioning a desktop that is based on Ubuntu. Features like integration with a lot of different platforms that we currently do not support. Features like, I don't know, you come up with the most hard, complicated features that you can think of that are actually useful for Zentyal, that nobody has ever time for it in a year, then you can do it in 16 months. So here we see, I took the liberty to make it a little smaller. Do quicker response with small features, more time to develop bigger features, and as a drawback, more overhead for testing this release. But I already said it's only 1 month. So I already said that 1 month is really quick. And obviously spilling resources in 2 separate teams. That's a big drawback. If you split your team, you split your knowledge. If you split your knowledge, then people may work more inefficiently. So if you have a solution, tell us when I have done talking too much. Here is the thing again, to show you that it actually, in fact, did only take 1 month. So what we can also gain if we, the first 2 months and the big time before we didn't have this roadmap, if we start now, no, in fact, if we would have started 2 months ago, developing what the community needs, what the partners need, and we would have presented it on this summit, then the entire time debating and discussing would not go against thing, because we need to step up, we need to think a lot more about what we want, what we need, and how to get there. Maybe not in technical design, because I'm not a technical guy. I know probably some of you aren't either. But we need to step up and create functions, talk to each other, like we are doing this afternoon. We need to do that more. So here's another very interesting thing about how can the community help? How can we engage in this discussion much more productive? How can we help the additional time for the second version to be useful? How can we, will there be time? Is it worth the risk? That's something that we really need to discuss. It's not something that I have the answers for. It's not something that Nacho would like to answer, I think. Do you?
I don't have the answer, but I would like to talk about it, and especially I would like Horst to comment on this. Maybe I'm going to give him the microphone so that he can give us his opinion. You have 10 seconds to think about an answer.
I'm usually like this. I tell you things.
I'm afraid that I don't have the answer either, because making a release is not just having the software product ready. You know, it involves many other things, like having the book updated to the new version, you know, a lot of different things. So I don't know if less than a year is enough for. I think 1 year is the minimum amount you need to make a release with a given quality. You know.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's, the Ubuntu approach, my opinion, is that for a desktop, it's okay, a 6-month release. But for a server is something like you don't need that quick changes, you know. And also between versions of Ubuntu server, the changes are usually not so big, you know. But well, that's my opinion. Of course, I would like to discuss, and we are open to any suggestions. But
Anyone suggesting on what he just said?
No, I don't have any suggestions, but okay, maybe I can speak louder. But the point is that, I mean, what's behind this idea that is to have, let's say, more releases. I can understand that it's not easy to provide release every 8 months. Okay, it's very difficult. Nevertheless, what it brings behind is you are obliged with this approach to have the long-term visibility that is today, at least from our standpoint, out of Zentyal, that is missing. I mean, we know more or less, as you explained very well, what's the next step, but next step, when you want to walk, you don't have any direction. Next step. In this direction, the next one may be here or here, and you don't know where you go. That's what is missing, and that's what you will have to do in a mandatory way if you follow this approach. Okay? So maybe there is some trade-off, let's say, to say, okay, let's stay on 1 year because it's too huge work, documentations, communication, and so on, but bring the visibility on the long term, middle term. What's long term? 2 years, not long term. Okay?
Yeah, I agree completely with you. I think your suggestions, they're very interesting, and we have to think about them. On the other hand, it's convenient to have it on a 1 year basis because it's, you know, it's natural. 1 year, every year at the same date we have the release. We know that in the summer nobody can take holiday, but we know that in September we have the release, and it has been like that for 3 years. Changing it to 2 years cycle, as you said, it has its pros, but it also means that maybe we have too few releases. And having it to 8 months, well, we break that natural cycle, and it might be too tight, but it has some advantages, as you pointed out. So I don't have the answer which one is better, but from the roadmap publication and having that clearly communicated and with clear dates on when it is announced the final roadmap with everybody, how long we are going to discuss it before, and if there's any change in the roadmap, how it is going to be communicated, that is something that we have to take it seriously. I think. I think that's something that it was our fault, and this is a mea culpa, or our culpa. And this is something that we really have to improve. So I'm really glad that you raised the issue so that we put our batteries and saying, okay, this is not going to happen anymore. Yes? Yes.
More release means also more submit.
Yeah. Yeah, more parties. Yeah.
So,
but I think Haiti will kill us. More summits.
So, I hope that I've raised a few interesting questions. Well, we already discussed it. That's my last. So, that's it. Okay. And yeah, thank you.